I do not want Batman in the DCU, but I've pretty much always been against it since people started bringing up the idea around a year ago. But I've got a few points and reasons as to why I think it should not happen. Like, number one, the Batman should be a standalone trilogy. Matt Reeves has stated before that he planned the Batman to be a trilogy from the start. And Matt Reeves is one of my favorite directors of all time, the Batman being one of my favorite movies ever. And I absolutely love Dawn and War of the Planet of the Apes. So I want Matt Reeves to execute his full, complete vision on the Batman and see where he takes the character without influence of his cinematic universe getting in the way. I mean, what if the way he wants to end the trilogy doesn't align with DC's vision for the Batman, but they want Robert Pattinson to be Batman in the DCU? Or what if Matt Reeves wants to do something crazy to end the trilogy, like kill Batman or have someone else take up the mantle, or have Bruce retire? Even though, to be honest, I don't really want him to retire again in the third movie because we literally just got that with Dark Knight Rises, so I would much prefer the other two options. But because I love Matt Reeves' movies so much, and Batman is obviously one of my favorite characters ever, and everything in this universe so far has been so good, I want Matt Reeves to execute on his vision exactly how he sees fit, without any studio interference or changes because of the DCU. I mean, we see that all the time in the MCU, and it sucks because in those cases, it doesn't ever feel like we get to see the movie the director wanted to make, but instead the version Marvel won. Now, saying that, I don't think it would be that extreme if he were to join the DCU. Like, I don't think it would be as much studio interference as there was for movies like Brave New World or Doctor Strange 2, but I do think it would alter Matt Reeves' plans, which is something I absolutely do not want. Something I do really want is reason number two, the Bat family. One of the only things we have heard about the Batman in the DCU is James Gunn said he wanted to do a story with Damian Wayne, and I think that's an amazing idea to start with an already established Batman and an already established Bat family, and that opens up the doors to so many stories that would just not be possible if you were using Robert Pattinson's Batman, and also allowing characters we wouldn't otherwise see for like several years or maybe even ever. Like, when was the last time we saw Dick Grayson in a movie? Like in the 90s or something? Like, truly, if Robert Pattinson was Batman in the DCU, do you think we would ever see Damian? I think we would be lucky to make it to Tim, let alone Damian, unless you were to do like a crazy time skip, but again, I think that would be messing with the story of Matt Reeves' Batman. And while it does suck that we won't get the origin of these characters or see iconic scenes in live action like Dick's parents dying, I think it's always there as a possible story they could go back and tell, instead of one we would never be able to see in the first place. Like, imagine in the far future we get a standalone Nightwing movie where he goes over the trauma that came from watching his parents die, and how he got over it in a healthy way because of Bruce's help, and what he learned from Bruce losing his parents at a young age. Or maybe in the future we potentially see Red Hood, and Bruce tells the story to Damian of a Robin he had a long time ago that died at the hands of the Joker. These are things that would just not be possible if Robert Pattinson was the Batman in the DCU. There's just so much potential for great stories they would never be able to get to because of number three, Robert Pattinson wants to retire. Now, I'm not going to get too into detail with this because he could change his opinion, and nothing is set in stone, but Robert Pattinson has stated before that he can see himself retiring after the Batman trilogy, and that's not really the best news if you want him to be one of the biggest faces of your new cinematic universe that will hopefully be going on for decades. Like, we don't even have Batman 2 yet, and I would imagine if they put Robert Pattinson's Batman in the DCU, it would probably be after Batman 3, and at the absolute earliest, I could see Batman 3 coming out in 2029, and let's say 2 years after that, they release Brave and the Bold. That would be 2031, and you would probably want Batman, the biggest DC character, to be around your DC cinematic universe for at least a decade, which would mean Robert Pattinson would be playing Batman until at least 2040, which is just something I don't see him signing up to do. But who knows, maybe Warner Bros. Throws however much money at him that he wants, and he changes his mind, but I just don't see that happening. And now my final point, the main reason I do not think he should be in the DCU is the potential of a new Batman. Now, in my opinion, I think the potential of an already established Batman with an already established Bat family that's in a lived-in DC universe with people like Superman, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Wonder Woman, and everyone else, that potential is so high and something I think people aren't really thinking about. And I think when most people say they want Robert Pattinson in the DCU, they are only saying that because he's already so good, and his version of Gotham is already so good. No need to take a risk in doing anything different that could be potentially liked less when you already have something so good right in front of you. And while I can see that argument, I think the potential of a new Batman and Bat family is so much higher than the potential for stories that they could possibly tell with Robert's Batman in the DCU. Now, yes, it could be worse, and I would say the chances of that are extremely high because of how good the Batman in that universe already is. But we could also get a Batman and version of Gotham that we like just as much, if not more, than the Batman. But we would never know if DC doesn't take that chance. And I understand people not wanting to take that chance, but imagine Spider-Man, for example. Could you imagine if in 2016, instead of rebooting Spider-Man, they decided to use Andrew Garfield? Yes, it would have been cool, but we wouldn't have gotten Tom Holland's Spider-Man. And no matter what you think of his portrayal of Spider-Man, if Andrew Garfield was still Spider-Man in the MCU to this day, we probably still wouldn't be getting Spider-Man movies. So I think for the longevity of Batman in the DCU and the potential of stories they could tell, and the already established Batman lore, I think restarting and having a new Batman in the DCU is the best way to go. Not only for the DCU, but for the Matt Reeves Batman universe as well. Keeping that separate and seeing Matt Reeves' vision to completion sounds like the best option. And I think as a Batman fan, that sounds amazing. You basically get to have your cake and eat it too, because you're getting a complete Batman trilogy on its own with its own amazing world and spin-off TV show. Then right after, getting a completely new take on the character in the greater world of DC. But that is only if they do things correctly. Now, I'm not a studio head or a movie movie producer or anything, so I don't know how these things work, but I can tell you as a fan, having two Batman at the same time doesn't sound great. You would basically be having them compete against each other, and if Matt Reeves' Batman is liked more than the DCU one, everyone is just gonna wish they had just put Robert Pattinson Batman in the DCU instead. So this is how I think they should go about this. So we know the Batman 2 is releasing in 2027, and hopefully with no more delays it actually does come out at that time. From then they should start instantly working on Batman 3, get that script done within a good amount of time, and have Batman 3 come out within at most 4 years, but hopefully 3. That would have the Batman 3 coming out hopefully around 2030. Then from there you start working on Brave and the Bold, and around 2 to 3 years later you release Brave and the Bold, and boom, you get a complete story for Robert's Batman. You get a Batman movie every 3 years or so, and you get a fresh new take on Batman for the DCU. It's a win for everyone, but that does leave one big problem. There's no Batman in the big new DC universe for at minimum 7 years, and that isn't really great when it's DC's most popular character, and one of the main members of the Justice League. But this might sound crazy, but I actually think this is a good thing. See, let's look at Marvel pre-MCU. Their 3 most popular characters, undoubtedly, were Spider-Man, Wolverine, and the Hulk. Only one of those characters were in the MCU at the start, and the other one came into the MCU a whole 8 years later, and the other one came into the MCU a whole 16 years later. So you know what that made them do? That made Marvel get some of their less popular characters and make them mainstream by putting the spotlight on them and making great and interesting stories with them. Characters like Iron Man, Star-Lord, Wanda are some of the most popular Marvel characters ever. I mean, seriously, the fact that your parents probably know who Groot is should say a lot about how good Marvel did at turning these B, C, sometimes D-list characters into superstars. Now imagine what DC could do without their star player. They could make characters like Supergirl, Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, Guy Gardner, all household names. And when the guy responsible for teaching the whole world who Rocket Raccoon is and making him one of the best characters in the MCU, when that guy is in charge of the DCU, I trust that he can make do without the star of DC for a couple years. Okay, I was gonna end the video there, but then I saw this tweet, and I just can't take it anymore. I absolutely hate this new fear-mongering garbage about this or that movie being canceled. Not even 2 weeks ago, I saw so many videos and tweets talking about the Batman 2 being canceled.
We're probably never getting the Batman Part 2.
The Batman Part 2 genuinely might be getting canceled at this point.
Well, second fact, we're not getting to Batman Part 2. Okay, this shit was kind of funny at first, and now it's getting a little concerned. I tried to warn y'all that this was gonna happen, okay? Guys, I think it's time to put the Batman Part 2 to bed.
And that was just a few weeks ago. But now that the script is being finished for the Batman 2, now you have people like Logan saying Brave and the Bold is being canceled. Oh, thanks Logan. Does your dad work at DC? Do you have some insider information we all don't have? Why is it that when we have good news about one movie, people's opinions shift like the tides into thinking we're gonna have one or the other? Do you know how these companies work? These next 3 Batman movies are going to make stupid money for DC. And what they mean in this tweet by saying the Batman 2 is really important, yes, they are really important, just like how the Dark Knight trilogy was extremely important for the character of Batman. And yes, before that trilogy, Batman was already extremely popular due to movies like Batman 89, but if you weren't around or just don't remember, the Dark Knight trilogy was like an event. I was extremely young when Batman Begins came out, so I don't know the general reception it had, but I do remember the insane popularity of the Dark Knight, and how it literally shaped comic book movies going forward for like the next 10 years, and how it skyrocketed Batman's popularity even more, and people who had no interest in comic book movies or characters now care. And now that it's been 15 years since the Dark Knight, it's about time for another Batman trilogy to come out and potentially do the same thing. And what I've never understood about these Batman 2 doubters, people shouting from the rooftops that it's going to be canceled, Batman 2 and 3 are literally just free giant piles of money sitting there for DC. All they have to do is release the movies. And you think a company like Warner Bros is going to just say, nah, actually, just because you're taking a little bit too long, just can it? No! The Batman 2 and 3 are literally going to make DC billions of dollars in not just ticket sales, but merch sales and everything. And again, going to hopefully skyrocket the general interest in Batman. So then when Batman's popularity is hopefully at its peak again for the first time in 20 years or so, guess what? They release a DCU Batman and capitalize off that popularity. Not just throw away the DCU Batman. Superman is going to make stupid money in the next few weeks. And then you combine that creative team with the Batman brand at potentially its highest peak in over 20 years, and guess what you have? Another pile of crazy money. So why in the world would Warner Bros, of all companies, cancel any of the movies I've talked about so far? Now hey, maybe I could be wrong. Maybe they will cancel Brave and the Bold and Robert's Batman will be in the DCU. Sure, but that doesn't change the fact that this constant movie cancellation, fear-mongering, impression baiting is extremely annoying and completely nonsensical when you think about what the sole interest for companies like Warner Bros really is.